Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Under the status quo, many family members are suffering from legal drug addicts and alcoholics. For example, when the family's husband is alcoholic, he might not go to work, he might not care about children at all, or he might sell household things to get money to buy alcohol. But the wife cannot do anything under status quo because just alcoholic is not illegal, and she cannot force him to go to hospital. And furthermore, she still loves him because the problem is just alcoholic, not his nature characteristic, and she just have to care, just alcoholic. So we think this motion is really reasonable to propose. Let me define this motion. Where we are going to take this motion in all countries, and after taking this proposal, family members are allowed to other family members to take their hospital to take them to hospital when they are legal drug addicts or alcoholics. And I have one condition. Family member means if the addicts are children, family member means only the parents. And if they are adults, it means only legal partners, wives and husbands, basically.
So,
No, thank you.
on your definition.
Okay.
Thanks. How do you distinguish those people who are addicts and those who are not?
Okay, so, I mean, okay, I'll explain the data. Basically, okay, I'm going to my points. Well, I'm going to talk about why uniquely family. Secondly, why the body autonomy can be restricted. Only 2 points. Okay, firstly, why uniquely family? 3 reasons to say so. No, thank you. Well, firstly, they know the best about their children or partner. They are the best closest person for their family members, and they can the best character to know the condition of alcoholics and addicts, and they can think about the best plan about. Okay,
But these family members had opportunities to persuade these addicts. Why should these people have extra right to infringe the choice of these individuals?
Okay. We think it is very problematic under the status quo because drug addicts cannot think so reasonably. They often do not go to hospital, but they do not want to be persuaded. And we think family members should have more rights. No, thank you. Okay, second reason of my first point. Well, family members have the best interest of positive consequence to care their addicts and alcoholics. No, thank you. Because they have share their own family, they have to share their own life, have to share money and things, and also have to share children's education. And for these reasons, they really want to make the condition positive, better. It's really unique for family, we believe. And the third reason, the family members, the first people to suffer from the condition of addicts and alcoholics. No, thank you. Because, as I said in my introduction, they have to suffer from the condition when their partner or children are alcoholics or addicts. And we believe because the condition of alcoholics and addicts can harm their life, the children, the education. Okay.
Okay, how can just drinking a little bit or like drinking on an everyday basis is a direct and objective harm to certain family members?
Okay, but we believe it's really clear to see that because just drinking a little bit, in that case, as husband, if husband drink, will say, okay, I'll go to the hospital, and the doctor will say, oh no, he's not alcoholic. The problem is he's really addicted alcoholic, and he do not want to go to the hospital. No, thank you. So that point of information doesn't make sense at all. Okay, and secondly, why we can be justified to restrict the body autonomy of the family members themselves, because when they are drug addicted or alcoholic, they cannot be so rational, and they cannot make the best choice for themselves, for their body, for their future, and therefore the family members can, instead of themselves, think about what is the best for them, because they are, as I said, very motivated to think about what is the best for them themselves. For these reasons, we believe it is quite reasonable and quite okay and justified to allow family members to bring other members to go to hospital. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, what we need to recognize in this debate is that these drug addicts are doing nothing wrong, right? These things like drinking something, or taking marijuana in Netherlands, those are legitimate choice which the state has allowed these individuals to do. And as long as these people are doing a right thing, we think that no one, state and also family members even, no one have a right to infringe that legitimate choice. That's the basic stance of opening opposition. We are here to respect the choice of these addicts, and especially when the Prime Minister was so vague to distinguish the difference between those who are addicts and those who are drinking a little bit more. So we think that from on those grounds we are proud to oppose. So basically we're going to bring you 4 things from opening opposition. Firstly, I'll talk about basically the choice of addicts. Secondly, how rehab should be. Thirdly, the chilling effect of this policy has, and fourthly, the practical consequence, which is like these drug addicts doing something wrong instead. But before moving on to our substantives, let me engage with the Prime Minister. No thanks. Firstly, about their model. I've raised the POI and asked, how should the state distinguish the difference between those who are addicts and those who are not? On this point, Prime Minister said, I'll answer later, but he didn't answer at all. Well, thank you. So we think that ultimately there would be a majority of the cases where if wives don't like their husband, if wives think that, my husband should take a rehab, those who are not addicts, those who are rational, would be forced to take rehabilitation process as well. And which means that these people would be forced to quit drinking, and that is infringing the legitimate choice. No, thank you. But secondly, even if these people are addicts, Mr. Speaker, we think that there are clear alternative of a thing called persuasion. Right? Like these wives or husbands or parents can persuade these addicts to take rehabilitation process. The premise of the Prime Minister was that, well, addicts are irrational all the time. That is not true, Mr. Speaker. These family members do have leverage. For example, if you don't go to rehab center, I will get divorced, or I would be living away from you. Those leverages does exist. And if these family members don't like it, then they should be divorced, Mr. Speaker. And even if persuasion doesn't work, I think that is the problem not the problem of alcohol, but it's a problem of characteristic of these individuals. And if that is the case, Mr. Speaker, then this policy will not solve anything, even if these people do get rehabilitation process, because the personality itself doesn't change. Violence towards wives, or the fact that they don't take care of their children at all, will continue to exist, and we think that's a problem. And secondly, third rebuttal is about, the interest of these family members. Because family members are far harmed by the existence of addicts, they have a right. Firstly, we say marriage or personal relationship always comes with consequences. And we think that these family members, the fact that they have married to this person, insinuates that they have consented to these possible risks. And secondly, we say, even if they don't like that harm, then they should be divorced. And especially when we are talking about liberal societies and modern society where women are more and more independent, we think that women does have a choice to be divorced and be independent from their husband. So, firstly about our argument about choice. The premise of liberal society, Mr. Speaker, is that individuals have their own autonomy and should be able to make a choice as long as they do not directly harm others and the entire society. Firstly, we say, even if the consequence is severe, that does not justify states or anyone to infringe that right. Just because people have sex without condom and spread HIV does not necessarily mean that state can enforce HIV tests to individuals. Even if individuals are addicted to casino, addicted to tobacco, or addicted to violent video games, there's no policy which says that individuals should be forced by anyone to go to rehabilitation process. As long as it is a legitimate choice and it was discussed by society and agreed that this is a great, good choice, and those choices should be admitted. Yes?
Drinking, of course, is your legal choice, but the state does not allow you, for example, to drive in a state when you're inebriated because it hurts others or may hurt others. This is exactly the same situation.
Ladies and gentlemen, that law exists because the harm is eminently direct, right? Whereas the proposition failed to prove why the harm is so severe. And also the harm is only limited to family members, whereas driving a car is not. The second logic is that line between addiction and drinking a bit more is really vague. And as long as the proposition failed to draw that dividing line, there would be more cases where individuals, even if they're not addicts, would be forced to take rehab. And third reason we say is that family members don't have that right. Yes, family members might know a lot more than the state, but we also say that in many cases, the reason why partners are addicts are partly because of the fault of their partners as well. The reason why many children do take drugs illegally or after they reach the age of 20 is because the family environment itself was really bad. That the fact that parents didn't take care of these children meant that these individuals were more likely to take drugs or drink a lot more. So it is also the fault of these family members. No, thank you. Now moving on to the second point about rehabilitation. We think that rehabilitation should be based on consent and always should be based on consent. Firstly, because it violates the autonomy, as I have mentioned in my first point. But secondly, we say that rehabilitation is only effective when an individual has consented to it. Because just because, individuals go to some building and take rehabilitation or listen to doctors does not mean that their alcoholic nature or their characteristic are altered. Personal effort are needed in rehabilitation process. And as long as individuals are forced by someone, they would not make this additional effort. So the premise of the proposition was that if we force someone, it would be effective. All of these things would be solved. That's not true. If these individuals are not consenting to this rehabilitation process, it means that they are more likely to quit early and there is no punishment under their policy. So these cases would exist. And thirdly, we say, my partner will explain more, this policy have chilling effect. The vast majority of the people would be scared to drink or would be scared to take marijuana, even though it is based on their consent, even if they are rational. Because if it is decided by their family members, they would be forced to take rehabilitation and they would be forced to quit their lifestyle choice. So the vast majority of the people would be harmed under their policy. Mr. Speaker, the burden of proof of the proposition is to tell us why structurally these people are not taking this rehabilitation process, and as long as they have not done that, we think that choice should be respected. As usual, we are proud to oppose.
Thank you, Leader, for the question. Deputy Prime Minister, go ahead and
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If that is all the opposition side has to say in this debate, we're taking this round before it even starts there, I think. Madam Speaker, I have one nice analogy that basically shows how naive their arguments are. Let's talk about religious cults. So basically, we in the society have a well-established tradition of leaving people the freedom to believe in whatever they want to believe. Moreover, those people knowingly consent that this might be an authoritarian cult that extorts money from them. Yet, Madam Speaker, we limit the freedom of people to enter those cults, and we limit the freedom to create those cults and pursue their goals, Madam Speaker. Why? Because we have to intervene when such activities cause harm not only to those individuals who consent to those activities, but also to people who are hurt by those activities without consenting to them. And this is the clear idea behind our arguments today. Now, I'd like to start with the refutation of what has been put forward by the Leader of Opposition in this round. Madam Speaker, question number one they raised in their POI and then tried to consolidate in their speech. How do you distinguish addicts, Madam Speaker?
Hear, hear.
My partner is not a doctor, but how do you distinguish addicts in the status quo, Madam Speaker, when you put them into rehab? What is the critical difference? I think a doctor, a specialist, can distinguish the difference between one beer a day or one bottle of vodka a day and a whole alcoholism or drug addiction. Using drugs, smoking marijuana twice a year or thrice a year does not constitute an addiction. I think doctors know what is an addiction and can check for it. So a wife cannot make her husband go to a rehab just because he drank one beer tonight. That's not the problem, Madam Speaker. Next. Opportunities to persuade. What a nice point, really. Madam Speaker, if you could actually persuade an addict, and I have to stress the word addict here, then probably we would have no rehab clinics at all. Those people would be persuaded by their relatives, by their friends, by their loved ones, by the entire society who is deeply against any kinds of addictive materials, right? Somehow it doesn't work. Why? Because when a person is addicted to a certain kind of addictive material like alcohol or drugs, he is beyond rationality. He cannot be subjected to any rational persuasion, Madam Speaker, and it wouldn't work on them. So legal stuff does not necessarily mean that it leaves a person completely rational, that it does not cause addiction, Madam Speaker. Otherwise we wouldn't have rehab clinics for, smoke addiction. Because smoking is also legal, but it causes huge harm for the society. So we have specific clinics. Because persuasion does not work for those people. We need medical treatment for that, right? We need certain kind of confinement. Next, what's the threat in one beer? Well, okay, we answered that. One beer is not alcoholism, does not constitute a problem, Madam Speaker. A shot a week of vodka is also not a problem. But what if your alcoholism takes half of family's budget or the entire family's budget? What if you come back home and beat your wife but she cannot report to the police because she's afraid of you, Madam Speaker? And also, even if she reports domestic violence to the police and gets you jailed, it does not resolve the problem of your alcoholism, right? So you will come back from your community service or like small imprisonments, and this will start all over again. What's the motivation to get in prison? Next, they claim that this will not resolve anything. It is within personality of each and every individual. Madam Speaker, drug addicts, as we know, come from very good backgrounds sometimes. They're educated people. They're normal. But this addiction is exactly what turns them into devils. And this addiction is the cause of problems for their relatives, for their friends, and for the entire society, not their personality. So this totally does not work. And finally, the point about consent, that you consent to something when you marry someone, right? You consent to those risks. Madam Speaker, what if you don't know about those risks? Nobody actually shows the bad side of him or herself when you're dating someone. Nobody goes to his or to one's girlfriend and says, I'm a drug addict. I have a problem. No, you probably wouldn't know. What if your husband or wife develops this later on in your marriage, Madam Speaker? And also they say, but you might divorce. Madam Speaker, and what if you want to save that marriage for the sake of the house you have, for the sake of children you have, for the sake of future you have, for the sake of the person you love? It's not the person you love who is the problem, it is his addiction that you want to resolve. But in the status quo, you have absolutely no means to do that. How about that? Now, what we're showing today is that family means certain contractual obligations toward each other. Obligations in owing things in common, for example. You do not owe things personally when you're in family, right? Obligation to take care of your children. Obligation to provide for the household. But in such cases, one part does not fulfill his or her obligation. A drunkard wastes money, does not take care of children, and also creates an awful atmosphere and creates bad influence on children, Madam Speaker. So, one side does not fulfill contractual obligations. What is important about such obligations is that in the wedlock, when you marry someone, you yield certain parts of your rights and freedoms, Madam Speaker. You cannot freely use your property without the consent of your husband or wife, right? And property is a sacred right, as much as it is as bodily autonomy, for example. You cannot decide where your children will go or will not go without consent of your husband or wife, even though these are your children. No, thank you, out of time. So, Madam Speaker, what's the key point of today's debate? They probably will try to persuade you that there is this principle of bodily autonomy. Madam Speaker, this kind of bodily autonomy clearly contradicts one important principle of libertarianism, this harm principle. You cause, by your actions, harm to people with whom you have certain kinds of obligations. You consented to yield certain kinds of freedoms when you entered that marriage, Madam Speaker. And one of those freedoms is the freedom to be a drug addict, an alcoholic, or an alcoholic, because this will prevent you from fulfilling your obligations that you consented to, Madam Speaker. So, also, we do not allow people to exercise their bodily autonomy when they cannot make completely rational decisions, or when they pose possible harm to others. As I said in my POI, Madam Speaker, drinking is a completely legal action, but we do not allow you to drive in that state. Why? Because the threat is possible. You might not kill anybody, but we prevent you from doing that in the first place because your ability to make rational decisions and behave rationally is limited, you're incapacitated. So for all those reasons, Madam Speaker, in order to save our society from this epidemics of alcoholics and drug addicts, we beg you to do this. Thank you.
Say that they're going to infringe and stop the choice of the individual when this standard is based on a very subjective point of view of family members. And they have shown no necessity to enforce, to deprive the choice of those individuals to access to alcohol. All they have shown is the possibility of violence. All they have shown is the possibility that these individuals may stop going to work. They have not shown to you how this choice is irreversible, or how this choice is too harmful for the individual, so that they have to really be deprived of alcohol.
Here.
Now, as the partner have pointed out to you, this is my rebuttal, they have not answered to any of the examples that my partner have given, such as nobody has a choice to be deprived of their privacy, to test it on HIV, or to be deprived of video games, or to be deprived of all those individual activities, because that itself is not the problem, but the violence is the problem. Now all they have said is that driving after drinking is a problem. Yes, we agree that driving after drinking is a problem. That is not the problem of drinking. That is just the problem of driving. The weed ban activity of driving after drinking itself. So this is not the problem of alcohol, but this is the problem of the choice of the individual that have gone into the driving, that have decided to drive after drinking. So this is not the problem of alcohol itself. So say with this case today, the problem that we are facing in the family members is not the problem of addiction and domestic violence, or they have more to say. The problem is is the environment that have forced these individuals to get into alcohol. But it's not the problem of these addictions. It's just the problem that it's just the problem of them. And if they say that domestic violence is so problematic, we already limit those domestic violence with a rule that limits domestic violence. So this is not. So we have to think differently with alcohol and domestic violence and stuff. So, and we say that the choice should be legitimate and the choice should be regulated only to individuals when this choice is when the choice is not irreversible, is legitimate, is legal, and is based and it results from a rational choice. And even yes.
So drinking one beer a day is a choice. Nobody will deprive you from that because it's not an addiction. But addiction is not a matter of choice. You cannot choose to be addicted, right? You are no more free in your decisions. Let's say
They still have not shown to you the necessity to deprive an individual the choice to access to alcohol. Now, they have pointed out that we need to force the individuals to go to alcohol rehab clinics just because there are alcohol rehab clinics. Ladies and gentlemen, the existence of alcohol rehab is not to force these individuals to go there, but it is just to provide the places that is being able to help these people out when these individuals feel that these individuals really need help from the alcohol addiction, or when these individuals feel that way. But there is no rule that says that other people should be forced to.
Hello.
My partner have already told you that nobody should be able to infringe the choice upon individuals when the choice is actually from when these choice is actually legitimate. Is from rational decisions and is not harming anybody. And my partner have already pointed out to you the problem of alcohol addiction is not the problem of these the problem that results from alcohol addiction is not necessarily from the alcohol, but it's from the environment and the personality of those individuals that like alcohol, and the environment of the family that cannot stop those people from addictions. And my partner have already said that persuasion still exists, so which means that they still have the opportunity to stop these individuals from going on to alcoholism. So they have shown no necessity to enforce these individuals to go to alcohol rehab. So the practical harm of this plan is that these individuals will be deprived of the choice that they can freely access to alcohol. What does it mean? This means that when these individuals, why did they go to alcohol addiction in the first place? They went because they like alcohol, because they wanted to drink it. So after this plan, what is going to happen is that just like you being deprived of the right to get access to television sets and play violent video games or all that, these individuals will be deprived of this legitimate choice to drink alcohol and to relieve their stress from daily work. So which means that because this choice, depriving of this choice means that these people, because they cannot be relieved from stress from alcohol, they would be gloomy. They have to look for other alternatives, which is impossible because why did they get addicted in the first place? They could not find any other ways to relieve their stress from alcohol, to relieve the stress that is coming up from daily life. So when they get gloomy, they would not be able to continue on with their daily life. They may not be able to go to work. They may not be able to do what they need to do. They may not be able to take responsibility for the Families Act. When alcoholism could have been a cause, could have been a cure for them to stay normal when they are not losing control from alcohol. So, and moreover, this is going to cause the social harm to those individuals, because this plan, what is it going to do? It is going to socially dissocialize, or it's going to shame those individuals, because now they're going to alcohol rehabs. Now the other people know that they're going to alcohol rehabs, which means that they feel that these individuals are not responsible or are not being very self-control, which means that these individuals would, because of subjective standards that was inflicted on strongly from the family members, which may not necessarily know what really they had to do because they could not stop them from alcohol use. In the first place, they would be deprived of those physical rights, and they would be shamed from the society, which means that the people who are now into alcoholism and the people who want to go to alcoholism would be stopped. This is a great harm, so which means that we need to oppose this one. Thank you.
Now I'll introduce the member for government. Please deliver your extension and speech in 7 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen. Today, actually, the operation side talked about the freedom of choice, and choice is so important. On the other hand, we want the Colombian government want to say that actually status quo, there is no choice to recover them by themselves because addicts big effect on the users. That's why actually normalization to the users and family members is so important. That's why government intervention and family, the forcibly to take the family members is so important. That's why we propose the motions. Today actually I'm opening government pretty good job of explaining about the effect of society, and as long as the users, the people who use and who addict the legal drugs actually gives the effect to the society. That's why we must intervene these choices. On the other hand, we want to extend. We have the extension is about the why we increase. We need to take care of the users because actually by addictions users cannot recover by themselves. Furthermore, the second extension is about the family members family members want to protect and want to normalize the family members. No thanks.
Sir.
But before that, I want to review what the deputy leader of operation has talked about. And she talked about mainly two things. And first is about they cannot release the students if we take this proposal. However, we don't think so because actually this case does not deprive the choice itself because the problem is that addiction itself is not the use during it's not problem that users drink the alcohol a little bit or more. When they become addiction, it is a problem. It's not deprive the choice. That's actually the deputy leader of operation take a mistake to understand the case itself. No thanks. And second response is about she attacks the workability. Even if we take this proposal, we cannot change people who use the drugs or something. However, we don't think so because actually there is actually we believe that in some cases actually there are a lot of the people who want to change the lifestyle itself.
That point, sir.
This is about actually the family members actually the users want to protect and want to help the family members, but they cannot recover itself because they addict a lot of depend on the drugs or alcohol itself. That's why actually here is a clear target to want to change the lifestyle. No thanks. That's why actually if we take this proposal, we actually change the situation because after taking this proposal, some people must go to the hospital and they must take the rehabilitation or so forth by in the professional rehabilitation clinic. That's why the workability is clear start. Yes, Bobby.
Those people who want to change their lifestyle are already going now. The
Yeah.
target of this debate are those people who do not want to go to rehabilitation. And under such scenario, how can you say that forced rehabilitation, without full of hesitation, without any personal effort, is so effective?
Thanks. However, the problem is that addiction itself, even if they want to change this lifestyle, but they can't, because as I said before, they have addiction. That's why but possibly sending the people to the rehabilitation clinics. That's why this proposal is necessary, no thanks. Then I want to explain our extension. First extension is about another status quo. Family members are victims because they do not and they cannot change the things and they cannot persuade the users even if their users are family members. Because actually the user, let me analyze the user. User thinks it is my choice or so forth. That's what actually it is usual lifestyle. And that's why even if the family members persuade please stop the using drugs or so forth. But actually, first of all, actually they believing it is everyday our choice or routine or so forth. And second of all, by the addiction, actually they cannot judge the very legitimate or very normally or so forth. That's why from two reasons, actually the family members are victims because they cannot persuade and they cannot change family members to the users who very addict the drugs or alcohol. That's why nobody stops this bad routine. For example, alcohol domestic violence, actually from the morning to the night, and the users drink the alcohol, and actually domestic violence continues from the morning to the night or so. However, after taking this proposal, we can change the situation because we can make the family members give the choice and forcibly choices to send the family members to the professional clinic rehabilitation system. Also, after taking this proposal, we can change the situation by the other professional supporting. And second of all, actually, even if they do not persuade family members, actually they send the clinic or so. That's why no necessity to persuade. That's why voting is necessary. From this reason, actually family members are protected. That's why actually this proposal can make the benefits to the family members. And second extension is about to the family members, users themselves. And opening operation talks about the users are happy and it is their own choice and so forth. However, we don't think so. Because from two reasons. First of all, physical damage and monetary burden, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, physical damage is actually depending on addiction or heavy users gives the damage to the body itself. That's why actually it is oppress the body or itself. And second of all, actually tobacco tends to be impose a lot of the tax or so forth. Furthermore, using a lot of the alcohol or these drugs actually gives monetary damage to the family or users themselves. That's why after taking this proposal, by the forcibly choices to send the users, actually we can change this kind of the physical damage or monetary damage, ladies and gentlemen. From this reason, in order to protect the users and family members, we like to propose a motion. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, every individual has their own sense of values, yes, and moreover, there are no clear definition about the addicts. So, user of drugs or alcohol drinkers cannot know the criteria of addicts or to be committed to rehabilitation clinics. And so, after plans, such users cannot use it at all, and it is, even though it is using is a legal thing. And so we beg to oppose. Firstly, I'd like to refute what previous speaker has said. He said, firstly, under the status quo, families cannot stop their husbands or drinking or using drugs. But it's not true, because mother speakers, they can decide about many things by the prenuptial agreement. So by it, they can decide what they do when they part of one of them becomes addicts. No, thank you. So by it, they can stop or limit the drinking or the becoming addicts. And secondly, he says that drinking alcohol or using drugs has many harms, like for heavy users, there are big heavy body damage or there are mental damage. But it's not important because firstly, for such users, they show all about such harms as before they become addicts or they use at first sight. So because by the time they are rational, so they are concerned about their harm. No, thank you. So such things, such harm is not important. Then let's move on to my extension. I have two extensions. First one is about the individual's defined sense of values, and second one is about the benefits or after plans, and they count using in drugs and they count or drinking alcohol. I'll explain one by one. Okay, about first as extension. Okay, mother speakers, every individual has own sense of values about drugs, alcohol, and even rehabilitations. Okay, firstly about drugs and alcohols. Maybe they are users as love drinking or using, or even they think it is necessary things. But while so or no thank you, family maybe thinks maybe they hate such things or hate even to shit. And their family maybe thinks even drinking a cup of coffee, if they count okay rationalities or they become addicts. No thank you. So the families, maybe families commit them to rehabilitation clinics by that light addicts actions. No thank you. And secondly, about the by always rehabilitations. Okay, by that rehabilitations, maybe there are they must do heavy things like they live a few days or more in the such clinics or and in the time they cannot meet families or friends and so on. And maybe they get mind controlled. They feel such things is too heavy things. But or maybe family thinks it is lighter things than the addiction. So there are such different values. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, we're not against coffee or alcohol or anything else. We're against addiction to that because it is exactly in the case of addiction. When people lose all their values, their understanding of laws, their understanding of what their relatives need, and they behave irresponsibly, they do not control themselves. That's the point of addiction.
No. If government says or want to say about the addiction is that a bad thing, they must decide about the definition of addiction. But under the, by the plan, they cannot decide. I may set it, so they or families is sent commit take the plan by their sense of values. Okay, then about second or second. Second address. After plan, that users cannot enjoy using at all because they always feel that their family points them to clinic. Because there are no clear definition of addictions, and especially family is not professionals about it, so families decide to commit by their own sense of value. So we like to oppose. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen in this House. Now, I'm quite disappointed to hear from the entire opposition that they don't have any idea of what exactly is an addiction. Mr. Speaker, we believe that addiction is something serious which clearly exists in the society, which there is an alcohol clinic which exemplifies that it is a disease which is something you have to fix on, Mr. Speaker. If there is even if subjective idea where you feel yourself that you're being tormented from the addicted people, we believe that is not the case. Because even if that is subjective value, we believe there should be a choice and the right for individual, even if you're a family member, if you're a wife or the husband, you should still have the choice and the right to protect yourself, because we don't think that the marriage is an absolute value where you always have to bond yourself and you have to compromise all your right to your husband, to Mr. Speaker. There's also a right to the privacy, which is guaranteed for every individual. We believe that these people, if they are tormented or if they feel that their lives are then not secure, they should have a choice to actually forcibly send these people to the doctors. And that's the place where there should be decided whether these guys are addicted or not. There is a consultant, and that's the case. Primary goal on this debate is to create the case and the environment where we have to actually perceive if this guy is addicted or not, Mr. Speaker. No, thank you. Now, the opening opposition had come up with an interesting idea of just persuade these people, and if you fail, just divorce. That's not the case, right? Because we believe the marriage itself is also something big. Like, you do not, like, maybe sometimes you have actually gave up your own job to actually climb up the ladder for your own career, or maybe what's going to happen to the children or your own life with the monetary problems, right? Or furthermore, what happened to your love? That's like more serious case of the marriages. So we believe that if you are failed to the persuasion, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should actually have the choice to divorce. We believe the maximum role of the government is to actually make them fix their own diseases and come back to the life and make them work harder on the society, Mr. Speaker. So we don't think that this rational, radical stance from the opening opposition does not stand. And it was quite interesting hearing from the member of the opposition, which had actually said nothing, but keep on repeating their own idea. Oh, that's only, I don't know, like... Shame. No, man. No, what he has talked about are simply three things, right? Firstly, define addiction. We did, or we don't have to do that. Second, well, it's a choice to actually drink.
Sir.
We've told you, right? My partner clearly emphasized. Like just one sip of a beer or one shot of a vodka is okay. What we're talking about is addicted people. And even if the member of the opposition says, well, there are times that these people get rational, we don't think that these people have a rational idea. Because there is a clinic, right? And if they are rational, as Keito-san also talked about, they should have gone to the clinic to fix their own diseases, right? That's the problem thing which Keito-san had talked about. He has told you that if they are rational, then they should want to actually recover their own diseases, so they should be going to the clinic, Mr. Speaker. We are talking about in this debate, the target are those who are irrational, who does not recognize themselves as a drug addict or alcohol addicted, Mr. Speaker. And these people are creating harms to these family members, or sometimes beating or using half the budget which the family has, so they cannot do a lot of the choices on going to the activities and the weekends, Mr. Speaker. No, thank you guys. So we don't think that these people are rational, and there is still room for the government to actually infringe some part of the life, to actually some part of the right to actually go to the clinics. Now they have talked. Now opening opposition side had quite done this argument that you need a personal effort. What happens if you're drug addicted? But we don't think that this personal effort is the case in this debate, because the primary goal is to make them recognize the situation where they're put in. Because these people who are suffering as a victim, or those family members who are left out in the houses, they don't have anything to do. They're helpless, right? And that's the emphasis which my partner had put upon, right? They don't have any way out from their own life. They, like, when they come back from the school, when they come back from the part-time job, or when they are actually staying at home as a housewife, there is this constant pain coming from their husband who are addicted onto the alcohol, and they cannot do anything, right? Even if they say, please don't drink more because I don't want to get hurt, they're just going to drink more, and they're going to hurt on people. So we don't think that these personal effort is not the case in this value criterion in this debate, but because there is still more to debate on to the primal level, we believe that there is still room for us to win in this debate. Yes, opening.
In order for someone to deprive choice, as the opening government said, you need to present harm. What were the harms to family members? Like using half of the budget, family budget, is that an irreversible harm similar to killing someone by driving a car?
Punch, kick, throwing the dishes. You might hit on the head, you might die. I don't know. That's the harm. Why? What? Like addicted, right? Like feel, man. Like that. Like dishes are thrown every single day to your head. You can't just run away for like every single moment. So that we believe is a valid criteria. No, thank you. Because even if you're drunk driving, you might not end up killing the people. You might actually safely arrive to your house, nothing happens, but the government still prohibits such kind of action, right? That means you have to mitigate the creation or the emergence of the practical harm which the opening opposition want to be happening, right? So the role of the government is to protect from happening the harm, right? No, thank you, guys. Out of time. All right. So we believe, and one more good point coming from my partner was those drug addicts, right? They are also the ones who wants to be saved by the addiction, Mrs. Speaker. We have a clear consensus, or I made a consensus in this debate through my speech, that these people are irrational because they don't go to the clinic. And that, keeping that as an option, or the choices which was coming from the member of the opposition, was the problem in this debate, Mr. Speaker. So we believe that even if these people want to have this one more additional push to go to the clinic, they cannot. Because these family members have the environment where it's been normalized. It's simple, like it happens every day. Maybe some of our neighbors are doing or suffering from the same thing. They believe or they assume that it's normal stuff. It's everyday single routine that they have to actually go through, and that's a clear extension coming from my partner's speech. So thereby, Mr. Speaker, in order to create the healthy family conditions, we're very much about to propose. Thank you.
Now I call upon the last speaker of this round of exchange, please deliver your solution in 7 minutes. Here's your
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What we brought you from closing opposition is a direct and objective necessity when the third party steps in and curb and limit individual autonomy. What we brought you from closing opposition is this controversial nature of perception when it comes to addiction and rehabilitation. The choice is being diverse in this occasion. The question which we tried to raise throughout the POIs, even the three speakers did not take any from us, is this. The problem is, how can you prioritize one value to go say addiction is bad and rehabilitation is necessary over the value of addiction is allowed in society or rehabilitation, forced rehabilitation is invalid for certain people. We could hear why you can prioritize one value over another in the context of liberal democracy when we value both of the choice of these individuals. That's the extension we brought you from closing. We couldn't hear any response from WIP. We believe their case false. I have two questions in this debate. Firstly, what exactly is the nature of harm by addicts to the family members? Because that was the entire premise of side proposition. If the harm is so big, the state can intervene. Let's look at that. Secondly, let's take a look at individual autonomy and individual self-actualization. How does this proposal lose the only avenue for individuals to self-fulfill? To the first question of nature of harm by addicts, they try to bring up two things. So let's do one by one. By the way, closing up was simply a repetition of opening up, so we didn't really have much extension. First of all, they try to say about the issue of money. The usage of money, you need a consent of partner when you want to use money. That is going against civil law principle, ladies and gentlemen. The point is, at the same time, husband, yes, we agree, husband can make choices. Wives also have the choice to use the money by herself, ladies and gentlemen. For instance, she's allowed to make different bank account without the consent of husband, ladies and gentlemen. There's a clear alternative when it comes to use of money. At the same time, the premise that they have is only men have the ability to control money. We think this is ridiculous. No, thank you. Second thing they try to say, as emphasized by closing up, is that, well, they'll beat them up. They'll throw dishes, there's domestic violence, etc. One, domestic violence is a crime, ladies and gentlemen. When there is physical and emotional damage between agreed by society, we punish that, ladies and gentlemen. So basically you're talking simply irrelevant analysis for an entire 40 minutes. No, you don't take one from me. Sit down. The point here is, unless there's physical damage that necessitates individuals go to hospital, you cannot do it. They say drinking and driving is being banned in these countries. The point, distinction here, drinking and driving is perceived by community as immoral behavior that every single one agrees. That's why there has been an uprising of signing signature in case of Japan in later 20th century. So we believe that is a distinction we made you clear. What did we bring you from closing opposition? As I pointed out, the point of information, we just own the only POI that was taken by side proposition. No, thank you. It's a necessity of direct and objective damage when it comes to intervention by a third party, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, in case of objectiveness, ladies and gentlemen, what we brought you from closing opposition is this idea that every individual is different, where it exists diverse needs. Even though they're family members, they're still two different individuals, especially in the context of adults, ladies and gentlemen, because for children it's illegal to use drugs or illegal to use alcohol. Basically, that's out of debate. No, thank you. The point here is just like how parents and children have different ideology, different moral value, or different even religion in certain cases, there is diverse needs. That's why my partner specified two uniqueness from closing up. First, we told you uniqueness of addiction, ladies and gentlemen. At the same time, we accept for some people, addiction is a bad thing because it may cause harm to others. But at the same time, some people believe addiction is an okay thing, ladies and gentlemen, because after it's undesirable, but you're not directly harming others, ladies and gentlemen. For instance, if I drink every single day and become addicts, it's not like I kill someone. If I do that, that's a crime, right? Just drinking may cause uncomfortableness. No, thank you. But it's too subjective, ladies and gentlemen, because comfortable or not is dependent on every individual's value or every individual's definition of their happiness. That's what we brought to precisely closing up has been totally neglected by side governments. No, thank you. Moreover, we told you the controversial nature of rehabilitation system, ladies and gentlemen. Some people believe going to rehab system is a good thing because it may cure disease in the long term. But the point here is at the same time, it's an infringement of mobility right and it deprives mental security, ladies and gentlemen. Because after all, as my partner has told you, these individuals can be detached from society, unable to meet friends, unable to go to work, unable to do anything you want, but locked in by, surrounded by professional daily, ladies and gentlemen. No, thank you. The point here is that some people believe that is an infringement of mental trauma, infringement of mental security in this occasion. Moreover, if they believe rehabilitation so successful, this means they have to go through so much harsh situation, as we also brought you on the table, ladies and gentlemen. When it seems so tough, you cannot drink, you cannot smoke, or anything like that. Within that situation, you're being deprived of the right. Some people may say just short-term harm, but for some people, short-term harm is much bigger when it comes to long-term benefit, or is it may or not materialize long-term benefit, ladies and gentlemen. So what we brought you from closing is this idea: you need this policy is simply indirect and subjective harm, not a direct and objective harm. That's what we brought you from closing. Yeah.
I didn't take any POS from you because I was afraid. But more importantly, why do you send people who are accused of drunk driving to prison, even if they did not kill anybody or harm anybody?
I already
It is
told
also
you.
a huge
I already told you that because it's seen as immoral activity by society. I just told you that. You should listen to my speech, or you'll probably lose. The point here is, let's take their best possible case, right? Let's take their best possible case about individuals' rights will be prioritized. So this base is going to be trade-off. Whose rights will be prioritized? We told you individuals or family members, these addicts' rights should be prioritized for two reasons. First, it's being made by legal framework of democratic procedure. That is illegal, ladies and gentlemen. Closing up try to extend the idea of normalization, but as long as it's legal, it's fine, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot win debate by having generic and theoretical analysis of normalization. Secondly, we told you about the idea of consent, ladies and gentlemen, on two levels. Firstly, when you marry, especially when marriage is so important, you believe that since it's legal, the point here is you have a possibility, your spouse would go in to take this legal choice of falling into addiction, ladies and gentlemen. Or secondly, we told you the idea of prenuptial agreements. These families, when before marriage, can make agreements when it comes to marriage. For instance, they can say, if you become addicts, I'll send you to hospital, ladies and gentlemen. They can make those agreements beforehand. Those avenue exists. So even if you take the best possible case, you're still fall under debate. Secondly, avenue of self-fulfillment. What we told you is that individuals have consented to the possibility of addiction. These drug addicts have consented to the fact they may get addicted. Everyone knows if they drink or etc., they'll get addicted. We told you family who's a non-professional, an arbitrary actor, can always infringe your rights. That's why there's no chilling fact that comes in play. So ladies and gentlemen, we told you from closing, this is not a direct or objective harm. We told you this is simply subjective and indirect harm. The motion must fall.